Pakistan and India divorced in 1947, and there's a lot of unsettled issues between them. Fundamental issue is the occupation of Kashmir by India. The BJP, their vision is a bit like Israel's. It requires the people to be second-class citizens or just leave. There's no let's win their hearts and minds. And that's why the Kashmir issue will always remain until Muslims resolve it.
How dependent is Pakistan on water coming from Kashmir? Supposedly it starts from Indian side of Kashmir and then it goes through Kashmir and it comes to Pakistan.
So this is why India wanted Kashmir. The real war is what they've done with the water. The incursions, Pakistan can deal with that. This is the real war. So what's Pakistan's plan?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and welcome to Islamic Oasis Live. Dear brothers and sisters, I'm sure all of you are, watching what's taking place in the world today. We have Gaza continues to burn. It seems like the occupying state is trying to do everything possible to wipe out the Muslims in Gaza. And there hasn't been a serious response to the plea of the Muslims in Gaza. On the other hand, a fresh conflict growing. We don't know if it could be what level it might reach, although it doesn't seem like either side wants to really escalate this thing. We have situation in India, Pakistan, going on between India and Pakistan over Kashmir situation, not even really over Kashmir, but the Pahalgam attack that took place that killed 26 people. So with all of this going on, we thought that we need to discuss the events taking place that would really have significant effects on what happens in Asia, Southeast Asia, because China is there. You have the situation where India, Pakistan, China, Kashmir, Afghanistan, and now also Iran, because as you may know, the Iran is it seems like it's doing diplomacy. They have sent some of their diplomats to India in trying to figure out how they can de-escalate the situation between India and Pakistan. So there's a lot involved, and as you know, both countries are nuclear. They're both nuclear powers. That may even include Iran, that could become a nuclear power. So, with all of this going on, we invited our dear brother, Brother Adnan Khan, to discuss the matters at hand, inshallah. So, again, dear brother Adnan, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Brother Adnan, so let's discuss this issue of what's taking place in India and Pakistan situation. Sheikh, now, what I've heard, now this is again still hearsay, but there were some anchors talking about this issue in Pakistan, that when the conflict was mentioned to Donald Trump, Donald Trump said something like, well, this has been going on for 1400 years, they'll figure this out. But some have said that he might have already kind of known that this was going to happen. I don't know if India informed Trump that they are going to respond, and it might be a very, limited response, and Pakistan knew about this. And first of all, Sheikh, was India forced to respond on this issue because of what happened in Pahalgam? Did it because of the public attitude in India itself? They didn't have. I think they would. They had to respond, because you look at the protest inside India, calling all kinds of names to Modi, and then the way the BJP comes off as if it's going to take over the world and all of this. So, what's the response to this attack? How do you look at this situation?
So I think, as far as India is concerned, on the 22nd of April, There was an armed attack in Indian-held Kashmir. So as far as they're concerned, and their narrative has been, is they're the victims of state-sponsored terrorism by Pakistan, which, as far as they're concerned, has a long history. So they're responding to this attack in Indian-held Kashmir. That's obviously their narrative. So, we're recording this on the 7th of May in the evening. On the morning of 7th of May, about 1 in the morning, they carried out strikes into Pakistan-held Kashmir. And there's been a couple of strikes in mainland Pakistan as well. So as far as they're concerned, they were the victims, they've been attacked, and they're merely responding. So even they've said that the attacks were precision strikes on terrorist hideouts. That's how they've...
Which is very interesting, Sheikh. I mean, I think 3 masajid were hit. It looks like, 3 masajid were hit. I mean, they hit Punjab. They hit a few areas in Pakistan held Kashmir and stuff like this. Sheikh, I mean, but the way they have done it is the planes actually did not enter. Neither planes entered or breached. I guess the air, whatever you call the sovereignty of each other or something like this. I mean, they are still watching how. Are they trying to fight the war without this de-escalation? I mean, it seems it's very precisely it's being really calculated how the response are on both sides.
Yeah, so if India wanted to escalate, what you would have had is some airstrikes, maybe airstrikes at Pakistani bases, and then you would have had some ground troops potentially go in to the country, into the border area. Now, keep in mind, Agra in India isn't that far from Lahore, right? But why hasn't India done that? Because it seems this is not what it wants to do. It's not invading Pakistan to occupy it. It's not invading Pakistan in order to teach it a lesson. What it seems to be doing is responding because it's been attacked. And this is a sufficient response. So the fact that they say these are precision strikes, what that means is these are precise, limited, we don't plan to do any more. So that's the message they're giving. So in a way, it's a bit like
this is not the first time Kashmir and India has been attacked in Kashmir. I mean, we saw the last one, which was the famous, what was that, where the Indian soldiers were attacked. I think it was like
the Balakot.
Balakot one. I mean, but it didn't escalate to this level where there was, actual Air Force is up in the air trying to, airstrikes and things like this. But why now? Why? I mean, and even at that time, it was BJP that was in power.
Yeah. So that's because there's a big gap between India's rhetoric and India's actions. And that's not because they're divided. It's actually because of capabilities. So what you find is the rhetoric is sky high. Within hours, the media was saying we want blood, Pakistan did this. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're saying there's a group called the Kashmir Resistance. Right. They're linked to Lashkar-e-Taiba, and they are linked to Pakistan, right? So Pakistan's linked. That's it. That's the link, right? And then what you saw is the Indian media really blew this up that we need to have blood. But let's just go back to Balakot 2019. Pakistan captured one of their soldiers.
Right.
The Indian Air Force doesn't fly fighter jets. What Indian pilots say is we fly flying coffins. That their jets are so badly maintained, there's a lack of modernization, that there's a good chance they're going to get shot out of the sky. So again, what you find is
even the
rhetoric.
Even the planes that actually...
India's rhetoric is so sky high, it's completely out of sync with their capability and the thing. So you're seeing now, there is some differences between the military and the politicians. The politicians are asking the military to do things that the military know they're not capable of. And we've seen it already. It's only 12 hours since the incident happened. Right. Already we're seeing at least minimum, there's 5 jets Pakistan took out and a drone.
Well, 6
we don't know what's happened to those pilots yet. We don't know what's happened to those pilots yet. So this is within the first 12 hours, which, I know in their Bollywood films, they paint this really fancy picture of their military and their army, but this ain't a Bollywood film. It's the reality. In the real world, India's capabilities have never been as good as the rhetoric that they have. And obviously, since the BJP have been in power, they're trying to promote this image of a strong India, a regional power India. And obviously, because of partition, there's a bit of a history between Pakistan and India. I mean, what was interesting was they could have gone to the UN, they could have gone to the International Court, they could have presented their evidence. They could have really built propaganda against Pakistan. They didn't do that because they probably don't have any evidence, right?
This is what I'm saying, Shashi.
And
I mean, they don't have the evidence. Pakistan did ask for it. Even some of the people were saying that, look, if you can prove the point, even if there are sanctions against Pakistan, that would be acceptable if this actually happened, meaning if Pakistan was really behind it or not. But they, I mean, was this overconfidence, Sheikh? India was really overconfident that they're just going to. I mean, I don't understand even overconfident over what issue, because even the planes that they're using, the jets that they lost, I mean, these are French-made. They've spent a lot of money on this. Versus even economically, this is not. Doesn't fare well for the Indians.
Yeah, I mean, India's defense program, there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of backhand deals. Everybody knows this. In fact, what you find is many people involved with defense procurement, they're just sons and daughters of ministers. They have no defense background. So there's a lot of kickback. And India is known for this. There's a lot of kickbacks. In fact, there's a number of programs India had that have failed. India is supposed to have this hypersonic missile, and a lot of money's gone in, nothing's ever materialized. They were doing a fifth generation jet with Russia, and India and Russia just pulled out. They go, your engineers are a joke, basically. You don't know what you're doing. So, India likes to promote this image of we're developing, we're very, very strong. But you've had ministers come out and openly admitted this. You've had retired generals and retired officers who have said that if you're going to send us to war, then you need to equip us, right? Because, you're telling us to go to war, and obviously military men know the reality. You're telling us to go to war. Right. You can't run a war on raw enthusiasm and raw nationalism. You need to arm them. And remember, in Kashmir, we're talking mountainous terrain. We're talking difficult circumstances. There's parts of Kashmir that are freezing for most of the year. So, you've got to be trained around this as well. So 12 hours in, the operation hasn't gone well. And to be honest with you, I'd be really surprised if India wants to escalate this more. To be honest with you, both sides seem they don't want to escalate it. But I think you need to keep in mind that India has been to wars in the past with Pakistan and China, where they got into the war because of right-wing nationalism. And in the end, they were taught a lesson. So when they went to war with India in 1962, they learned a lesson the hard way. The Chinese taught them a lesson. So this is quite common from India's perspective. However, look, India we know they have links with some of the groups in Balochistan. We know they've been developing relations with the Taliban. Now, these are all tools they could have used. But for some reason, they thought, let's send our fighter jets, and that will really teach Pakistan. And as far as the Pakistanis are concerned, I mean, all throughout Pakistani media today, all you're seeing is the fallen jets, parts of the jets, which really doesn't build a good image.
I'm wondering, Sheikh, it seems like Taliban have met with Russians, and the Russians have removed their, I guess, the listing. They're no longer a terrorist organization, which means now they can do banking, business. There's a lot that they can do with. But we also know that Russia will not give these type of. You're not just going to get these things if there wasn't some type of negotiation. Same thing that they did with the Americans. So I'm wondering.
Yeah. I mean, the Taliban, obviously, they got to set up a proper military. I mean, but Taliban have historically, the Afghans have fought insurgencies. So for that, you don't need like a massive air force. You don't need massive equipment. What you do, you drain your enemy, right? So that's how they were supported in the past and things like that. So obviously, India now is trying to open up relations. They had a deep relationship with the Northern Alliance. They're obviously out of power. So they're trying to build relationships with the Taliban now.
No, that's what I'm wondering. But no one is taking sides on this. I guess the reason for mentioning the Russia situation was, I mean, Russia is with China. That's very clear. China is providing whatever it is to the Russians in Ukraine situation. I mean, I'm wondering that if the Russians are telling the Taliban, you cannot take any sides on this, and so they haven't taken any sides so far. I mean, I haven't heard anything from Taliban
Yeah,
saying
I mean,
that
it's still early days yet. I mean, if this is just a skirmish, then you probably don't need to take. So I think most people have said we
it's
need to be
going to be a
calm.
skirmish. Right.
Let's not de-escalate this. Now, if this was to escalate where ground troops get involved, artillery gets involved, now that's a different story, because now India's defense relationships, now they're going to need them. And Pakistan's defense relationship, they're going to need them, because now it's escalating. You need more equipment. You need resupply.
Right.
Then, yeah, you need to take a position, right? And that's when it gets quite interesting. However, the attacks India's done, they're not at a level where you've weakened us, you've carried out significant damage, we now have to respond. That's not the level it's been to yet in the first 12 hours. Obviously, it could escalate, but there don't seem to be any appetite from India to escalate. Even their rhetoric, it's like, we want blood. Okay, we've done it now. There don't seem to be any information that they're given to the media where we've got some long-term plan. If you look at Ukraine, the European Americans are talking about a long-term plan, what they're going to do, how much they're going to give, they're going to train. You got none of that coming out from India. So that will just indicate, India is not looking to escalate this. And that's probably a message to Pakistan that, look, we don't plan to escalate it, so we've attacked you. If you don't do anything, then that's really it. And potentially there'll be some talks to end it. Obviously, if Pakistan escalates, then this is how these things can escalate, and then countries have to take sides, right? And I don't think both countries' economies are in a position where they can really be escalating. And if you're the Indian leader at the moment, well, you've potentially lost 5 fighter pilots. You've lost 5 individuals. That's not looking good. So I doubt they'll escalate it. But this brings us back to the fundamental issue. The underlying issue is, when partition happened, the Muslim majority areas were to go to Pakistan, the Hindu majority areas to India. Kashmir was majority Muslim, although it had a Hindu ruler. And because they cut a deal with India, Kashmir went to India, and then they had a war over it. So the underlying issue still isn't resolved, which is Kashmir really should have been part of Pakistan because they're all Muslims. But what's happened is there's been a few wars. The UN agreed that there'd be a referendum, and India refused to have a referendum because the majority of people are Muslim. They're going to vote the other way. And how does India rule over Kashmir? With brutality, with it's a police. They've got 500,000 of their army stationed in Kashmir.
Sheikh,
it's like the most
if it's a false flag, look, here's the thing. I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out strategically what would be the point of India. So let me ask you this: Why
if this was a false flag attack, and you want to take advantage, they've done a really poor job of that. You've lost 5 fighter jets.
I guess from a strategic point of view.
So, their false flag attack's gone completely wrong. So you've carried out an attack, you blamed it on Pakistan. Okay, that's worked perfectly. So now is you want to capitalize on that. You want to weaken Pakistan, yeah? Well, the opposite's happened. So that fairy tale Bollywood ending, that is not happening here. It's been the opposite, really.
That's true.
Right?
But now, on the other hand, if there was okay, why a false flag? I guess that's what I'm asking. Would they wanted something like this?
The reason why anyone does false flag attacks is you have other goals, and you're going to use the false flag attack as a cover. So the best example I can give you is Iraq's weapons of mass destruction was the false flag.
Right.
And the real aim was occupation of Iraq, removal of the ruler, coming under America's control. Right? That's probably the best example in the modern era we can give you. The whole WMD was a lie. We all know it was a lie. Right? Now, the evidence for this is still a bit sketchy. So what you had was a document was leaked, which talks about a false flag attack in the Kashmir town it happened, and the role of the media and what the government will do. And what it indicates is the media will say, what's the investigation from the government? Who did it? And the government will then announce after all the investigation that they'll blame Pakistan. So then the media will blow it out of proportion, and then the government will act. Well, what happened was the media started blaming Pakistan in 2 hours. This was a really badly coordinated response, yeah? And then if this was a false flag attack, you would have had years to prepare for it. You would have had your military ready. You would have practiced it. You would have trained it. So I'm more of the opinion, this doesn't look like a false flag attack. However, you can execute any plan very poorly. That can happen. America invaded Afghanistan. Look how poorly that turned out. Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine had no chance. Here we are 3.5 years down the line. So you can have a plan, but it's executed really badly. But what makes this false flag narrative a lot more legitimate is because in the last couple of days, India's removed the intelligence officials and army officials because they're blaming them from leaking that document. So that would indicate there's some truth in that document. But the execution of India's action has been so poor, it's a bit hard to believe that they set this up. I mean, remember, when you do a false flag attack, you know you're going to do the attack. You know you're going to kill your own people. So you're ready to take advantage. India is, it literally looks as though India was attacked and they just very quickly decided we have to attack, and they've done it and they've not thought through all the ramifications. What if Pakistan responds? What if Pakistan invades India? What if Pakistan takes out our fighter jets? These things have to be thought through, and in false flags, you have time to do that. But India's performed so poorly, it indicate this was a real attack. They blamed it on Pakistan. It could have been. I mean, the group that did it, the reason they said, the Kashmir Resistance Front, the reason why they carried out the attack is since India unified Kashmir with India back in 2019, when they changed, they got rid of the law that separated them both. People have been moving to Kashmir and the demographics are changing. So they said we did the attack for that reason, right? Now, although I disagree with that, I can understand why they may think like that, right? So that's their reasoning. Now, the reasoning has got nothing to do with Pakistan. The reasoning has got nothing to do with what's going on in Pakistan. What they're saying is what's going on in Indian-held Kashmir, we have a problem with that.
Sheikh, I mean, with almost 1 million, at least, I guess, after the signing of 370, the Indians were supposed to move, I mean, the 1 million soldiers that they've had manning Kashmir for the last, since 47, to the Chinese side. But there, I mean, still, it's one of the most highly it's militarized area in the world. And even with that, they have not been able to control half of Kashmir. Forget about, Azad Kashmir. Now the Indian occupied Kashmir itself is...
To be honest with you, Kashmir is Asia's Palestine. It's militarized, you've got an occupier. Right. It's Asia's Palestine, if you think about it. See, the reason why they have 500,000 troops, the main issue is not Pakistan. The main issue is the population. They've never been able to win their hearts and minds.
Right.
They've never been able to win their hearts and minds. And if you look across India, look at the Sikhs, look at the Naxalites. India has got numerous insurgencies going on because these guys have no idea how to create one nation. And with the BJP in power, you believe everyone else is inferior. You believe that this is a Hindu nation and everyone should be second-class citizens. So it's inevitable. But this is even before the BJP, this was going on. So they can't control the population, but the population never accepted the occupation of India. So that's why they have to have 500,000 troops in that territory. I've read before, on average, it costs India $1 million a day to maintain its occupation of Kashmir. Because they have to helicopter troops in, they have to helicopter equipment in. They can't go up the mountains. So it's a very expensive occupation. Then you've got insurgencies in other places in India.
Yeah, I mean, Manipur, the people in Manipur, I was reading the other day, they were saying that, I mean, it's funny that India is willing to go to war over 26 people killed in Kashmir. I mean, how many have been killed by the Indian troops in Manipur and situation? And they're saying, what, we're not Indian enough for? What's the deal here? So, I mean, they have... Sheikh, let me bring in, Manipur... on the other side of India is a special, it's very interesting area because of Chinese involvement in the area. I mean, India has fought a war with China on the other side. And also Bangladesh. And it's no longer a friendly, there's no more Sheikh Hasina there. I mean, Sheikh Hasina is sitting in India for that matter, but how is India looking at this this strategically at the map, Sheikh, because from almost every direction, it's not safe. And to go to war with Pakistan, while you know that China doesn't like you, Bangladesh is not your friend anymore. Pakistan and Bangladesh are actually having military exercises together. And then you go to war with Pakistan. I mean, it makes really no sense from any perspective.
It's not a sensible strategy, is it? You fix your home, you unite everybody, then you're stronger to do things outside your country. The worst thing you can do is you do stuff outside your country and you're divided at home. So the Sikhs have all day been posting material we stand in Pakistan.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't see that, but okay.
It's not like the Sikhs are treated any better.
Right, that's true. And actually, more Sikhs. I think in the last, even from the Pakistani side, when the attack happened, the more civilians have been Punjabis and Sikhs.
So if you look, when America invaded Iraq, they got the Kurds on their side. When America invaded Afghanistan,
the Kurdish, yeah.
When they invaded Afghanistan, America, they got the Northern Alliance. Right? So if somebody was going to invade India, you're spoiled for choice. You got the Naxalites in the south, you got Manipur, you got the Sikhs, you got other elements. So
and Muslims who are.
So if I'm the Indian leader, if I was the Indian leader, I need to sort my home out. I just sort my house out. Because easily somebody externally could fund and arm an insurgency internally. Right? But what have the Indians done?
Sheikh, why hasn't, I guess it's a question to be something that we can maybe discuss in the future, but why hasn't China maybe looked into this situation and say, why not arm the Muslims in India?
So look, China's strategy with India is twofold. Firstly, the border between China and India was something that was defined by the British when they were there. And when
China and India. Okay.
China and India, yeah, okay. The Himalayas. So there was a border where the Himalayas is. So what happened was in 1962, when China and India had the first war, what happened was the right wing in India, they were like, how dare the Chinese come close to our border? And they raised all this nationalistic feeling that, Bharat this, Bharat that, we got to deal with India. We got to deal with China. And so what happened was because of the right-wing fever, they sent their troops into the Himalaya areas. And China just sent nearly 3 million troops and taught them a lesson.
Yeah.
So that was where their relationship started from. So since then, there's been a tense relationship. However, once China's economy started to develop in the 2000s, India's economy started to develop, they've got economic relations. So they're still technically at war in the Himalayas. There's been skirmishes. On the economic side, they have a pretty good relationship because India's a big economy, it's close to China, China needs export markets. However, politically, they're still tense over that border area. So China has never viewed it as we need to conquer India. They never viewed it as we want to defeat India and humiliate her. They have a border dispute, fine, we can sort that out. And they're not happy when India claims areas that China believes belong to China. Other than that, China wants to trade with India. It's a market, it's close, they technically share a border. So China doesn't have eyes on India, wants to take it over. And India doesn't have eyes on China. There's a bit of an issue of the border, but that's it, right? Now that relationship between China and India is different with the relationship between Pakistan and India. Pakistan and India divorced in 1947, and there's a lot of unsettled issues between them. And that's why there's always a lot of tension. So you're right. If China was to open up a front on their side of India, if Pakistan was to open up a front in Kashmir, India's finished. India can't fight on two fronts. India can't fight on one front at the moment. But Pakistan and China have never coordinated that way. And one of the reasons is because from the day Pakistan was created, they believed by joining America in her Cold War, by becoming an ally of America, this will help Pakistan. Pakistan can develop very quickly. And since that day, despite their relationship with China, Pakistan has always been in the American camp. If you go back from the Cold War, from the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, from the American invasion of Afghanistan, America treats Pakistan badly, treats her like a battered wife. However, as far as Pakistan is concerned, we are allies of America, And that serves our agenda. So that's why, even though they have a good military relationship with China, they have an economic relationship with China, it doesn't go beyond that. The politics is with America. So that's one of the reasons why Pakistan and China have never worked together against India. When you'd think it makes sense if you want to do that. So I've just told you they can coordinate an attack on Kashmir, on India, but they've never done that in the past ever.
Right. I mean, this would be the chance. I mean, you have all the excuses.
Pakistani rulers, like many of our Muslim rulers, they're just happy to have a throne. There's no foresight, there's no grand plan, there's no grand vision. There may be rhetoric from some rulers. Yeah, so, we had Imran Khan, a lot of good rhetoric, right? It never translates into action. They're just happy to be in power. We've got our seat. And that's why when these opportunities arise, they miss it. I mean, if you look at the moment, while Donald Trump put tariffs on the whole world, as far as he's concerned, we've got competition from China, and the whole world needs to get in position. You need to pick a side. So Pakistan needs to look at the future and think, okay, is it in our interest to be allies with America? Maybe we need to think about China. Maybe there's other options. But the leaders of Pakistan, they don't think like that, like many of our rulers. They don't think beyond the circumstances. They don't really think in the future. So the people of Pakistan, they do. The people of Pakistan want unity with the Muslim world. They want to solve Palestine. They want to solve the issue in Myanmar. They look at the Muslim world and see them as our people. Our rulers, they're happy just to be in power. They're happy to go on training exercise with America. They're happy to go to UN meetings. It doesn't go beyond that. And that's why you find, for example, why haven't any of the Muslim rulers armed the Palestinian people? Right, they're being massacred. Why don't you arm them? In fact, there's legitimate reason to arm them. Pakistan can do that. You've got the weapons. You can arrange that with the Muslim world. But what you find is, we make dua for the Palestinians, but that's it. We don't do anything more than that. And that's why you find the leaders we've got, they've reacted to India because it makes them look weak. They don't want to do anything more than that. I mean, it's been 75 years, the Kashmir issue. What have you been doing for the last 2 decades? The last 2 decades, the rulers don't even talk about Kashmir anymore. Just you have Kashmir Day, they'll talk about Kashmir. In terms of actions, they've got rid of all the jihadi groups. They banned the jihadi groups. They put all of them into prison. So all of that's gone, right? So all for the 50 years before 2000, that was your strategy. Now they've gone the other way. So that's why I believe the response of the ruler will be just to please the people. Look, we responded. But there's no agenda beyond that. And that's why I come back to the fundamental issue. Fundamental issue is the occupation of Kashmir by India. Now, this issue will finish what we've had now, this terrorist attack and response, but the underlying issue has not been addressed. The Pakistani rulers are not addressing it, and India obviously doesn't want to address it, but they want to occupy it. So,
Sheikh,
this issue is coming back again and again.
Let's say if there's another attack like Halgam attack that happened, which is very much, look, whoever did it, I think has realized that it can really raise tensions in the area it could be, a serious war is possible. So can the Muslims of Kashmir themselves, you think they have any type of realization that how serious their role can seriously destabilize this area? Do you think they have that kind of ability or potential to see maybe where they can take this?
So look, the Kashmiri people are a bit like the Palestinians, yeah? On their own, they can't do much. They're not a proper nation. They don't even rule over their country themselves. However, with the right support, they can achieve it. So if you look at Palestine,
that's what they did with Azad Kashmir.
Yeah. So that's why, if Pakistan supports them properly, if Pakistan supports them like their brothers, if they see them as one people, then they can obviously achieve something. Yeah. If you look at Israel, what it's doing in Palestine, without Western support, how can they do it? It needs the arms, it needs the equipment, all of that. Yeah. So this is the thing. So what the Pakistani rulers unfortunately have done is they do lip service, we support Kashmir. Physically, they haven't been doing anything. Physically, they've been, you could, in the past, fly from anywhere in the world to Islamabad airport. You land and you say, I want to go to Kashmir to fight, to defend the people. There was mechanisms set up where you could land, you could be Syrian, you could be white British.
Right.
You might not even be a Muslim, you're a lefty. There was mechanisms set up to get them there, to go and fight. All of that's been uprooted, doesn't exist anymore. You turn up now, you say, I'm coming to fight Kashmir, they deport you, throw you into prison. And that shows you, because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, you fly to Pakistan, there was mechanisms, routes,
to get you to Afghanistan. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because remember, it was state policy. State policy is not to solve the Kashmir issue now. They've wiped their hands of it, so there's nothing set up. If you're a white guy from Europe who turns up, they'll be like, what are you doing here?
Well, the thing, I guess, also, Sheikh, the concerning issue really is also this escalation and tensions in the region, and of course now actual fighting taking place between the two states, and then Kashmir, which I think will take the brunt of all of this, even when everything comes down again, and but also the Muslims of India, which till now, I mean, of course there has been all kinds of brutality against Muslims in India. Has everybody's there. You can just go back and see what they've done, from lynching to all kinds of nonsense. But Sheikh, do you think this changes the role of the Muslims of India also? I mean, when they look at, is it just about Kashmir? Because I really think, there are people are looking at this thing as this is no longer Kashmir matter. The Muslims of India themselves are going to have they will pay a price for this. Whether it's UP, you look at the masajid.
Yeah, so the Muslims in India, they're becoming a lot like the Muslims in Europe. The Muslims in Europe are always questioned, who are you loyal to? Are you loyal to your ummah? Are you loyal to Afghanistan, Syria, or are you loyal to this country? And the Muslims in India have always been asked, who are you loyal to? Right. So if you don't support the Indian cricket team, if you don't support India winning, if you don't criticize Pakistan, because what they do, the worst label you can have is you support Pakistan. You're anti-India. So India's loyalty, Muslims in India, their loyalty will always be questioned. That's how it's always been. And it's a bit like in Europe, Muslims always asked, in France, in Germany, in the UK, what side are you really on? And so the Indians have always had it like that. Now, the Muslims in it, they're not very organized. So what you find is they're not one block, right? So some Muslims vote for BJP, some vote for Congress. The Muslims are not organized and engaged with the other separatist communities. But the Muslims aren't the only ones who are questioned. The Sikhs, their loyalty is questioned. The Naxalites in the south, they're questioned. You've got so many different communities. There's no organization for this. And maybe it's because some Muslims think, look, we don't want any fingers to be pointed, that you're not loyal to India. But look, the BJP, who've been in power for over a decade, they don't even view India as a nation for all people. They say it's a nation, it's a Hindu Rashtra.
It's for themselves,
That it's for themselves, and you should be second-class citizens.
And sometimes it's Bharat, sometimes it's Hindustan. I don't even...
Yeah, they don't even hide it. They say, no, this is a Hindu nation, and you should just be lucky we even allow you to step foot in there, but you're a second-class citizen. So this whole, we don't want to be seen as disloyal to India. Well, no, and look, the BJP is in power. The BJP isn't a fringe group. The BJP are in power. They've been in power for a long time. And looking at how badly the Congress party is doing, I think BJP is going to be in power for a long time. So, don't get me wrong. Look, I'm not in India, so it's easy for me to sit here and say this. However, Muslims in India do need to think about their future. How do they navigate this? Because the Muslim in India, your loyalty will always be questioned. You want to be more Muslim? You want to be more Islamic in India? They will see that as, that's because you're more loyal to Pakistan over India. And it will always be questioned. And that's always been the problem. You speak to anyone from India, this has always been a question. You're Muslims, you're more linked to Pakistan than India. This is how they've always spread it. So
I don't know if you saw the statement from supposed scholar, said something like, if Angel Jibreel, he goes to Pakistan and he comes back, he will not be, they will not allow. I mean, this is, at what level, Sheikh, the level of Jahiliyyah in trying to prove their loyalties to India. And when you're talking about...
what's funny is, is every example we've seen of other places where people try to prove their loyalty.
It's failed.
By, and what you find is they still view you as Muslim and not one of them.
Right.
So you've got Muslims across Europe who've, reformed Islam. They're more loyal to the countries in Europe, but they're still viewed as, you're not like us, you're like that. Every example of this, they still view you as Muslim, right? They still view you as you're not like us, you're not loyal to us. So it doesn't help if you actually look at it, but Allah guide him, man. I mean, I saw the statement. And, one thing is you say a shallow statement. One thing is you don't know what you're talking about. Then you say statements like this, like, you might have to take Shahada again at this rate, what he said, yeah? Hopefully,
and people did. People actually did tell him that you need to say your Shahada again, because what you mentioned is...
I hope he doesn't understand what he said, yeah? I hope him, but, I mean, he's a sensible guy, so you'd think he knows what he's talking about, yeah? But, look, this... I'm not even saying here, yeah? I'm not saying you live in India and your job is to conquer the country, right? I'm not even saying that. I'm saying... These people, the rulers of India, they're not even letting you live as a human being. Look at what they do to the people of Kashmir. They're not even letting you. And it's not just Muslims. After Sikhs, after the other community, they're saying the same thing as well, that their loyalty is always being questioned. So, they do need to think about their long-term future here.
Historically, has there been any... that you can think of, I know this is right on the spot here, but that you can think of where a minority has been able to really take its rights? I mean, through...
Well, it happened, and that was when we Muslims were the minority, ruling over majority non-Muslims.
Are you talking about Medina?
No, I'm talking about in India, Muslims came, I think, 30, 40 years after the Prophet.
I'm saying, sure, but I'm saying in the last, let's say, 100 years, we haven't seen something like this.
No, because what you had when the British ruled, they used one community against another. And then when partition happened, effectively the majority, which were the Hindus, they got ruled. And they always questioned the minorities, are they loyal? So the Congress Party talked about one India, but the reality was in your one India, 80% are Hindu. And remember, Hindu is a caste-based system. It differentiates between people. It differentiates between Hindus. They divide over their gods, over their belief. So, if they can't even unite amongst themselves, how are they ever going to be able to live with non-Muslims? How are they going to be able to live with Muslims, yeah? So they're never going to be able to sort this out, because Hinduism inherently is built upon differentiating between people, differentiating, their gods and all of these sort of things, yeah? So, the last 100 years, absolutely no. I mean, what you have had is at times where there was just peace because the government had other things to do.
No, but because I guess when I'm looking at this region, you look at the Rohingya situation. Again, a minority. Now they're actually fighting back. They have been fighting back, to be honest. But obviously no support. You have the Kashmir situation. You have the Manipur situation. You have next slides. You have Sheikh. I mean, it's interesting to see that with all this, the amount of conflict in the region, and India is still safe from an all-out, destruction. I mean, but this is, even with the Uyghur Muslims, for instance, in China, right, in the Xinjiang region, Sheikh, is it states they have been able to somehow manage the conflict in the region?
No. So India specifically, no one's exploited it. All these divisions, who's exploited it? Pakistan's not exploiting it. China's not exploiting it.
Oh, so there has to be somebody that exploits.
America's always wanted India to just ally with America. In the Cold War, America actually wanted India to be its ally in the region. But Nehru and Gandhi, when they established India, they wanted India to have open relations with everybody. They didn't just want to be an American ally. So that's why they had a good relationship with Russia. They had a good relationship with America. The Americans have always been trying to win them. That's why America's never done anything internally in India. It's not exploited it, taken advantage. So what you find, despite all these problems, no one's exploited it. If you look at Ukraine, America's exploiting their differences with Russia. If you look at Afghanistan,
right, in Iraq, they did it.
Russia and America have always exploited, the Northern Alliance with the Pashtun and vice versa, because Afghanistan is such an important area. In South Asia, obviously, you had Pakistan, but internally in India, they haven't. So when you had one India, the British ruled, and obviously the Muslim ruled before that. What did they do? They divided the region, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India. So by creating these nation states, how are they going to unite and work together? So no one's exploited it. This is the issue. That's why India, as weak as it is, as internally divided as it is, no one's exploited it, because they've not bothered. They've got other issues which are more important. So that's why India, is very divided. Their national politics is very divided, but no one's exploited that from the outside. Even in the past, Pakistan's never really exploited it whatsoever. So that's why India can still continue despite all its problems, despite the corruption, despite the negligence. Obviously, America wants India to be strong, to use it as a counterweight against China. So that's why it's made civilian nuclear deals, it's made economic deals, but it's for India to be united internally. And these issues can be problems. I mean, just because no one's exploited them today doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. If you're a country that wants to take over India, or you want to get India to align with you, you will look at what are the things I can pull them. So you look at these communities that are separatist, these communities who are not happy, right? And if India can't solve this, rather than invading India, what you do is you support a community that creates an internal problem. And, this is what America has done in many, many places in the world. But at the moment, despite all these issues, no one's exploited it.
Sheikh, two questions. And then one, U.S. has not been able to exploit the Uyghur situation with China either, which is very interesting. Is it because they don't want a straight? They don't want conflict, direct conflict with China, or I mean, it's an interesting situation.
No, they've tried to. Even there's a Uyghur movement in America. These are people who have left China. They organize in America. The main problem is that there's only one party in China. That party,
CCP.
the Communist Party, runs the state. It runs the government. The political party is the state. They control everything, all the resources. There's no opposition party in China. So that's why it's difficult to exploit in China's internal problems. Because when they say we want to build a dam and 80 villages are going to disappear, it gets done. There's no opposition party. So, and also remember, China had a center of humiliation from 1840 to 1945. So they learned we have to be strong internally so we can't be exploited by the colonialists. So that's why there's one party. In China, people don't view the Communist Party as a political party. They view it as a civilizational party. These people saved us in World War II. They defeated the Japanese. And because of them, we are a unified, strong country. And that's why you can't exploit China from the outside. It's impossible. So even the Uyghur issue, I mean, China's got problems. You've got the Uyghur issue. You've got Taiwan. You've got
Hong Kong. But Hong Kong still, Hong Kong is done. But
you've got all of these issues, but they've not been able to exploit them really at the moment. Because, if you're America, you're pulling these. And now China's developed. China's stronger, economically stronger, militarily stronger. It's not that poor country it was 3-4 decades ago now.
Right.
And so that's why, as far as America's concerned, China's growing. China potentially could challenge us. And now they feel that we have to deal with it. We're getting to a point now. And even America, they feel that maybe we're at the peak of our strength. Maybe we're in decline. And really, who's the competitor? I mean, when you're the superpower, you're always looking at where the competition is coming from. You're always looking, where is someone going to emerge that might challenge us? And you have to deal with it very, very quickly. So, for years, decades actually, Americans have been saying, America's think tanks have been saying, America's national intelligence is saying that challenger is China. So now it's clear. You've got China versus America, and America's even ripping up its global order that it established after World War II in order to deal with China. So now the countries in the world are going to have to make a choice. Which side you want to be on? You have to decide what's the future. If the future's not America, do you really want to be with America? If the future's Chinese, so the Europeans are having this discussion now. The Europeans are saying that, look, is it in our interest?
Security has become an issue everywhere.
Yeah. So now our rulers, even the Muslim rulers, have to decide: do you want to go down with America? Really? If that's not the future, if you only care about your throne, can America really defend you? If you're Egypt, if you're Pakistan, if you're Indonesia, if you're the Arab rulers, can you really rely on America? Look at what America did to the Europeans. It's saying to the European, you're on your own. After 70 years of saying, we've got your security, they said, look, we don't want to pay. Look at what they did to Ukraine. 3 years of Ukraine, we will back you against Russia. Now they're saying, it's your fault the war happened. Trump is blaming the Ukrainian.
Yeah.
You saw. I mean, I'm sure you saw what they did to Zelensky.
Yeah, of course. That was something else. We'll have the discussion, inshallah, on what's happening in Europe.
This is where we are. So the whole world is changing, right? The Muslim world. There's a lot of questions now, question marks. The position of Israel is changing now. People have seen what Israel's really about.
Yeah, of
and
course.
In the subcontinent now as well, things are unstable. Look, a lot of people are not happy with the status quo. They're not happy with the economic situation. They're not happy that our rulers have not developed. They're not happy with the jobs. South Asia's population is only growing. If the population is going to grow,
25% of the population, man, of the world lives there.
Yeah. So
25% population. You're looking at nuclear powers everywhere. Russia, Iran. I mean, that's the discussion we have to have on what's the new coming deal with Iran.
If you are a Pakistani leader or an Indian leader or a Bangladesh leader, you need to be thinking about, we've got to build schools, we've got to build roads, we've got to build transport.
I mean, is India, one thing, Sheikh, do you think India is thinking that it is being surrounded by Muslims now? I mean, Muslims they've always been surrounded by Muslims, but meaning, look, Iran could become a nuclear power very soon. I think it's already there, but they're probably just negotiating a few other issues there. I don't know. We're waiting for Mr. Trump's big announcement on Monday. He keeps saying that he has a very big announcement that he wants to make before he goes to Saudi Arabia. I don't know if Saudi Arabia, it will become nuclear power. We don't know what that means. But do you think, Sheikh, and even at the end of the day, it's dealing with Iran to even negotiate with Pakistan. I mean, there's somebody is in the middle trying to talk to both sides, and they've chosen Muslims and Iran at the end of the day. Sheikh, so India, in this region, what happens to India? India has to become, I mean, how does it have to think? Because look, if it thinks everybody around it is an enemy, then they would have to, I don't know what they would really have to increase their defense to a point, 70-80% of defense. What does India do, Sheikh? Or really at the end of the day?
India doesn't view it like that. India has a good relationship with Iran. They're economic partners. They have a good relationship. China, despite the issue over the Himalayas, they have a very deep and have an economic relationship. Pakistan is a problem, and that's something they need to deal with. Bangladesh, they had a decent relationship with. You got a new ruler. However, economically, the relationship is going to continue. Look, whoever's ruled over India throughout history, their main issue has always been the continent of India. India is such a huge place. So Indian rulers have always been thinking about India internally. You've got massive population, you've got different regions, you've got to develop the economy, all of that. Even when the Mughals were the richest people on earth, when they ruled over India, they didn't think beyond India, because India was such a huge place. So the Indian leaders today, they want economic relationships. Yes, they're not thinking of expanding. Even the BJP, as Hindu nationalists as they are, America's still not happy. They feel the Indians are not being aggressive enough with China. And that's because the Indians have never been like that. The Indians still want a good economic relationship with China. And actually, if they sit down, they could sort out the Himalayan issue. It's not an issue which is beyond fixing. With Pakistan, there's too much history. With China, there isn't that much history. And this is something that gets on America's nerves, yeah? That we want you to be aggressive, we want you to stand up against China, and India's not doing that. What India's doing is they be aggressive sometimes, but then they have really good economic relationship with China, right? So and this has been the history of India. India's like, look, we want to have good relationship with everybody. We don't need to be on one camp with the other. This is what the founders of India did, Nehru and Gandhi. They were like, look, we don't want to be in the Cold War camp with America or Russia. We want to trade with both. This was a problem for America, but America's strategy has been, we need to win India. We need to give her concessions. We need to give her commercial economic deals. They've always been doing this. That's why they've never been aggressive. Pakistan and America are allies, but Pakistan they bully her. America always bullies Pakistan. India, they've never done that. With India, it's always been, let's try and win her. Let's try and win the heart and soul of India. Because India has had this independent thing, which is we want to have a relationship with everybody. So they have a good relationship with Iran. They've had a long relationship with Russia. And even America, it goes back in history, they've had a good relationship. So if you're the Indian leader, why do you need to mess that up? You can have a good relationship with everyone. And even these Hindu Rashtras, yeah, they may say we've got this aim of the region and beyond. The reality here is their focus will always be
Akhand Bharat and all this nonsense.
Yeah, but the problem is look, even the Mughals, as rich they were, as powerful, all of their history, they were focused internally. It's such a big continent. And the Muslims under the Mughals had all of India really under their authority, but it's a big continent. To go beyond that will take a lot more. You need to unify internally. You can't be fighting internally and expanding abroad. It doesn't work like that. That's what happened with the Soviet Union, and it collapsed. So with India, I think the attention, whatever they say externally, always what's going on internally will draw them in. You've got big regions, you've got disparity in the economy of different regions. And even India, I would say, India's politics isn't national. India's politics is regional. The regional politicians,
South,
the regional politicians have more power than the national politicians, right? So even if you look at the internal dynamics, it's not set up for a national unified politics so they can now think about foreign things. Really, the regional leaders, they have actually more power than the national leaders. And that's why India's focus will always be internal, really. And add the separatist movements, add the way they are, it's going to be very difficult unless, you could unify that all. You have a system that could unify it all. But the Hindu Rashtra is not going to do that. Well, the only time India was unified was under the Muslims. That was the time when the whole entity was unified. But we give people rights, isn't it? We gave the Hindu rights, we gave the Sikhs rights, we gave the non-Muslim rights. Our deen and remember, we were minorities. The Hindus have always been the majority in India. Even when the Muslims ruled for nearly 800 years, we ruled as a minority. We were the minority ruling over a majority. Where do you see that happening? The only place you see that happen is when you colonize a place. The British were a few thousand people, but they colonized it. They oppressed the people, right? We didn't do that. We didn't come for we're not imperial. So the BJP, their vision is a bit like Israel's. It requires the people to be second-class citizens or just leave. That's their vision. There's no let's win their hearts and minds. In fact, they don't even want them to become Hindus. Some people we want you to become liberal. That's not even the Indian view. And that's why the Kashmir issue will always remain until the Muslims resolve it, until Pakistan helps them and solves it. It will keep coming back again and again and again because, they're never, you're not going to be able to join it with India and win the hearts and minds of the people.
Sheikh, the last question regarding water. Water seems to be, the Modi government has, seems like they've closed the water that was coming to Pakistan. Sheikh, what is the real issue here? I mean, how dependent is Pakistan on water coming from Kashmir issue, where supposedly it starts from Indian side of Kashmir and then it goes through Kashmir and it comes to Pakistan. So what will Pakistan, number one, how dependent is it? Number two, what does Pakistan have to do to get out of this dependency?
Yeah. So Pakistan's main water source is the Indus River and what comes from the Indus River. The Indus River comes into Pakistan through Kashmir, and from Kashmir, it comes from the Himalayas. So because Kashmir was split between India and Pakistan, Pakistan's main water source comes through Indian-held Kashmir, into Pakistan, Kashmir, and then into the rest of Pakistan. So in the 1960, they made a treaty where basically India won't build dams or divert the waters. So the waters go to India. They go to Pakistan, sorry. And obviously, India's north, the waters will come from the Himalayas as well, from Kashmir. So shockingly, despite the wars they've had, this treaty has always been in place. They went to war in 1948, in 1965, in 1971, in 1999. Never was this treaty ever changed. So this time, they've said, we're abrogating the treaty. So that now means India could build dams and divert the waters, which long-term is a strategic problem for Pakistan. So after 75 years of Pakistan's existence, they didn't think, if India is your enemy, then surely it's one day they're going to do something. So you've got 75 years to find other sources, develop other water sources. They haven't done any of it. This is the foresight of our leaders. So when India now said, so really, India's real weapon in this war is the water treaty they've removed. The fighter jets, they will come and go, right? The real weapon that they've used now is this. So they can, if they divert the waters, it affects Pakistan's agriculture. It affects majority of people in Pakistan. I think nearly 40% are employed in agriculture. Punjab is the heartbeat of Pakistan, is the economic center of Pakistan, and that relies on agriculture. So this will have this potentially has a long-term problem. It's a strategic issue for Pakistan. So really, now they need to really think about, they need to do something about Indian-held Kashmir. So this is why India wanted Kashmir. If you got Kashmir, you got Pakistan by the neck. You got all the waters to go for Kashmir. This is one of the reasons why they did it, right? And Pakistan, it went to a couple of wars. They weren't resolved, and then after 2000, they're not even gone to war as well. And to be honest with you, nobody believed. I mean, Pakistan and India been to wars. Never did India stop that treaty. So this is a long-term problem now. It's a long-term problem. It's a strategic problem. And, really, Pakistan needs to prepare for, you've got to deal with this strategically now, which means you may have to build the military capability. You've got to really think about unifying with Kashmir, even the whole of Kashmir. Now you don't have time to build other sources. Building other sources takes decades. You don't have time for that now. So in a way, the Pakistani rulers didn't want to deal with Kashmir. Now India forced you to deal with it. So what India's done now, by removing this treaty, in the long run, they may have created an even bigger problem for themselves.
Wow, Sheikh. Okay, so that means this is beginning. So this is actually beginning of a real serious conflict.
Strategic. This isn't we've closed one river. This isn't we've closed one dam.
Right.
This isn't we bombed one dam.
If they do this, Sheikh, let's say, for instance, even with, because I was hearing that, let's say if India does decide to hold certain amount of water, and then all of a sudden it releases it, that could create huge floods inside Pakistan, and it has done that many times.
So India's done that.
But now you have flood season coming.
Yeah. So if India builds dams, it diverts the waters. The waters won't even come to Pakistan.
But Sheikh, hold on. So let's say if India does decide to, hold the water and then release, you're looking at serious damages inside Pakistan. I mean, and you don't have much time at all. You're looking at maybe a month or two.
Yeah, so what our rulers have done historically is when this happens, they shout. There's a lot of noise, but they don't physically do anything, right? But now what you've got is, remember, you still got the feudal system still exists in Pakistan. I think 60% of the land is in the hand of 5% of the people. So all of that goes up in smoke. Your agriculture industry goes up in smoke. So this is a long-term problem. That long-term problem is now immediate. It's in front of you now. Because India's now said. Now, there's another option. You go to India with a begging bowl. And what India will do is, okay, we will remain in the treaty, but here's our conditions.
Oh, wow. So the other side, either war
That's complete capitulation. That's complete capitulation, right? This is a bit like what Russia's doing to Ukraine now, which is we'll end the war. Here's our conditions.
Right.
And because India's got the neck of Pakistan, it can do that. Or you reunify Kashmir, which is what you should have done from the beginning. So now the Pakistani rulers neglected Kashmir to effectively please it. It was the order of America, right? And now it's come to haunt them. So if they had actually continued with the insurgency and supporting the separatism of Kashmir, potentially Kashmir could have been united with Pakistan and this wouldn't be a problem. But they didn't do that. So now can you see? So it's the problem now come around to them again. So they, now they have, and this, to be honest with you, this is India's real weapon in this war.
Yeah, that's. I didn't even realize how big this is.
Remember, in a war, you bomb. We see the bombings. People die really bad. This is, it's a slow motion killing of Pakistan. So you don't see it every day. But over time, you will if you're there. But it's not big. It's not massive. All of that. But this, water's basic thing of life.
Because we do also some work in Pakistan. I mean, every time there's floods, every year we do a lot of humanitarian work in Pakistan. And Sindh gets overwhelmed and completely destroyed. And then it just takes so much. You build and it gets destroyed. You build, it gets destroyed. And it's funny that, every year we talk about, why doesn't Pakistan ever think about its infrastructure, especially these dams and stuff like this? Because, it's a problem, same thing India does with Bangladesh. Yep. Even the floods coming down.
From the rulers, there's no long-term thinking. The only thinking they had long-term on, was the nuclear bomb. When India acquired a nuclear bomb, Pakistan was like, we have to have one. They put the resources in place. They set up a global network to get the knowledge, to get the technical help. That's the only thing where the rulers, the industrialists were on the same page, that this has to be done, right? But why? Because India's got a nuclear weapon and we're going to go to war with India. And how do you defend against a nuclear weapon? You can't. So the only defense against a nuke is we've got one as well. So Pakistan shows you when they want to do something, they can.
Sure.
So they can solve this issue of water. Anything can be. There are countries that have so much rain, but they've put technology in place. They've put resources in place. They put things in place to deal with this. The IMF and the World Bank and think tanks have written how Pakistan can deal with these floods. Yeah. But they never get implemented. Why? Or we don't want to spend money. I'm only the ruler for 4 years and I want the money to go in my pocket. I'll give you one example. Pakistan's been taking loan from the IMF since 1958.
Right.
Where's the development? Where's the improvement? It's going in their pockets. So what's the point of the IMF money? It hasn't helped to develop the country. It hasn't built the country. In fact, by taking IMF money now, half of your budget goes to repaying it.
Yeah, supposedly 60%.
More money goes to repaying the IMF debt than education, health, and infrastructure. What's the point of the IMF loans? How does it help the country? It doesn't help the country at all. So if you don't take the loans, half your budget is safe now. But obviously our rulers go into their pockets, isn't it? Even the last flooding was 2020, 21.
Yeah. No, it wasn't too long ago. We saw the destruction of.
Where's the IMF money? Where's the expenditure? So one thing is you don't have money. The one thing is you take money and you're not building the infrastructure. So what's the point of taking that money? And what bank here can you go to multiple times for a loan when you're struggling to repay the previous loan? The IMF and the World Bank must be the only banks you can go to, no matter how corrupt you are, they will give you more money. And this is why, the IMF and the World Bank are political organizations. Their job is, which country has developed with IMF money? Nobody. Which country developed with World Bank money? Their job isn't to make you develop. Their job is to make you dependent. That's how it's so.
Well, if you don't take the loan, they make you take the loan too.
Yeah. So I'll give you one simple example, because this is good. Subcontinent is in the same region as China. Did China develop taking IMF money?
No.
Did China develop by taking World Bank money? They didn't. There you go. How is it China got independence same time as Pakistan and India?
Yeah.
So how come China has developed, become the second largest economy in the world, and India and Pakistan haven't? That shows you they both got resources. They both got a large population. Why haven't they developed? Well, the difference there is the Chinese leadership, their aim was to develop the country. That was their aim. The Pakistani rulers, it seems, the aim is more, how can I benefit personally? How can I support my cronies? There's no aim. They'll say that. There's a lot of talk, we want to develop the country. But look, me and you are old enough, we've been around long enough, we're in the development. So this is why it all adds up. Look at the economy, look at the military, look at the political goals. It's not, and the war's changing now. The world's changing now. You got different polar powers emerging. Being with America, how much they helped Pakistan. Some decisions have to be made now. Doing the same old policy, how will it work now? America's got bigger problems to deal with.
And it has ignored even this whole war situation. Is saying nothing other than just figure it out and end this quickly. That's it.
So America's in that. I mean, there was a time America used to interfere with everything. America has to prioritize now. America's like, look, we've got bigger issues to deal with. So if a ruler gets overthrown in the Middle East, America's going to be like, look, mate, we've got other things to deal with, more important. So any rulers who think America's going to come and save them, forget it. So this is where the world, and the Americans, look, all of Trump's supporters, what's their main argument? We spent too much time in forever wars. We spend too much money abroad. Forget everything outside America. We need to focus on America. So what are they saying? You rulers who rely on America, no more. We have to prioritize Americans. That's what they're saying. So all these rulers who think, helping America, working with them is good, well, actually, and Trump's on, and we can criticize Trump, but at least we know where Trump stands, even if he changes his opinion every day. He's open what he thinks about the world. This the Signalgate affair, Trump's cabinet communicating on Signal.
Right.
What they were doing was they were being open what they think about Europe. They were saying, Europe, we've had enough of backing these guys. We've had enough of giving them security. They've got to stand on their own feet. That's what they think of you. Right? And so you can imagine what they think about the Muslim rulers.
Wow, subhanallah. So Sheikh, on this issue, I just wanted to, I didn't think about the water issue as much as, because I think, so you're saying, just last point here. So the India really, by closing or at least ending the treaty of Indus River, has really put Pakistan in a very tight situation where it has to figure out.
But that's the real war. The real war is what they've done with the water. That's the war Pakistan used to fight. The fighter jets and all that. This is sideline.
Yeah,
that's the real war. I mean, it's important that as well. This is the real war, right? It's the long-term war as well, right? The incursions, Pakistan can deal with that. This is the real war. So what's Pakistan's plan? Even if you're going to talk to India, what can you bring to the table? This is what the rulers got to be thinking. But India, they've got them by the neck, really, with this water treaty. So, since 1948, this day was going to come one day. You had 75 plus years to prepare for this. I mean, what they should have done is develop water resources where the Indus River doesn't matter anymore, or it doesn't matter as much. So India can't use it as an advantage. Now they've done, look, let's see if India acts upon this. But the fact that they've told you we are means you have to prepare for the worst. You can't think India won't do it. You can't think, the international community will get involved. The international community got involved with Kashmir. What's that achieved? India's not giving it up. So this is definitely a problem. It's a long-term problem, and it's something they're going to have to really deal with.
All right, brother Adnan. With this, inshallah, we'll end this program. Again, brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khair, Jazakumullah khairan for watching. You've heard what our brother had to say. This Pakistan has to think very deep and long about what their dependency will be, because it seems, as the brother was saying, that you can have an air force, you can have all this, but what would be the point if you can't take care of any thirst of your people? This is something really strategic, something strategic that Pakistan has no choice but to think about. If it's going to deal with India, or if it's going to even deal with its own people, if not the issue of Kashmir. So it seems like Kashmir is going to continue to be a problem that Muslims or Pakistan will have to think about from a Muslim or Islamic perspective, and actually take all of Kashmir. I mean, that's the only solution, unless they figure out another way of dealing with this conflict, which so far has been since 1947, and there's been no solution. All right, brothers and sisters, so I keep an eye on this discussion. We will now we'll end this. Keep us in your du'as, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.